All right then. Welcome everyone to our April 5th. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. April 5th, 2022 meeting. It is virtual, but we are trying the hybrid method too to try and work out some of the bugs. So I'm going to call the meeting to order and ask everyone to please turn your cell phones off or place them on vibrate so it doesn't interrupt the meeting. I'll remind council of the declaration of pecuniary interest if it arises. You can declare it now or declare it at the time if something pops up. And we're going to move into the minutes from previous council meetings. We have quite a list of them here because of the budget. We have a few special meetings. We have minutes here from the February 22nd budget meeting, our March 1st meeting, regular council meeting, and we have a budget meeting on March 4th, 8th, and 11th. So I'm going to look for a motion if they're all in order to receive those.
Motion to receive, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Ellis and seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to move right into delegations here. And our first delegation is Eric Hanna. He's the interim CEO over at Campbellford Hospital. And he has an update for us here. So welcome, Eric. You're muted there. You're the first today. I get to say that a few times through the meeting, and
That's
you're
good.
the first, Eric.
It won't be the only time today I'll be muted. I'm also joined as well, Mr. Mayor, by Kevin Eustace. Kevin is the board chair, and maybe I just let him do a little bit of a brief introduction, and then if you don't mind, members of council, I've got 10 slides that I'm just going to quickly go through to give you the update and the urgent need for the redevelopment of the facility. So maybe if I could, Kevin.
Yeah, thanks, Eric, and thank you everyone for giving us the opportunity to give you this update today. I'll just be very brief, give you a quick overview just from the perspective of a volunteer board member. It's been a tough 2 years for the hospital, as we all know, and for healthcare workers in general and whatnot. But we're here today to talk to you about something that's pretty exciting, a very positive thing, and an opportunity for the community and all the communities in the hospital's catchment area, and that is the prospect of a new hospital being built in Campbellford. So we've been quite active actually in the past, especially in the past 4 to 5 months, and so that's primarily what Eric is going to update you on in some of those activities. Just to give you a kind of a setup for that. I think the perception is in the community, generally speaking, that Campbellford will be getting a new hospital at some point. It's just a matter of when, and we just need to be patient. And what I've found being, on the board, this is my 7th year on the board, and I've been on the redevelopment committee for probably 6 of those 7 years. I've come to learn that there is absolutely no certainty that we're going to get that hospital. I think right now there's 35 to 40 applications in with the Ministry of Health for redeveloped hospitals in Ontario, and we're just one of them. So what we've realized is that we do need to, be more proactive, more assertive to try to make our case, and it's a very, very strong case, as you'll see. But the other thing that's happened is there's an urgency now that we haven't had in the past, I would say, and that's based on 3 things. One is that the pandemic has really impacted the patient experience. The facilities in Campbellford have always made things a little more challenging to provide the best patient care, but with the pandemic, that has been exponentially worse, I guess you could say, and that's not going to change, even though hopefully the pandemic is winding down. We are now in a pandemic world, and some of those things that we could tolerate in the past have become intolerable in terms of trying to provide a good patient experience. The second thing is that the facilities itself are on life support. Like there's about 25, I think the latest estimate is $25 million of upgrades that are required just to bring the building up to a basic minimum acceptable standard. And that just doesn't feel like a good investment for our community or for the province. So, and the third thing, which is kind of the most exciting and a positive one, is that we have an opportunity to create a campus of care in Campbellford with a redeveloped nursing home. We want to co-locate with and they want to co-locate with us, with Omni and the new nursing home that must be built within the next 2 to 3 years based on their licensing agreement. So there's that time pressure. If we're going to be able to co-locate with the nursing home, we need to get our approval to plan from the province, and that's kind of what it's all been about. The icing on the cake for us as a board has been Eric Hanna. So he joined us in the fall, and Eric has brought 35 years of healthcare experience as a hospital CEO, as a consultant. He's worked with the Ministry of Health, and he's kind of been there and done that on everything, and he's certainly been involved with redevelopments in the past. And so he has been a catalyst for us to really get going and take a lot of action. So that's what Eric, I'll turn it over to Eric now, and he's going to give you some of the details on what we've been up to.
I believe, Mr. Mayor, somebody has my slides. Maybe could they bring them up and share them on the screen?
Okay.
We'll get your slides up, and if you could prompt us through each one, that'd be great.
Okay. So you,
Thank you.
I don't see them. Oh, there we go. Good. Okay. While we bring this up, so if we could go to maybe the very beginning. Whoop. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks. So it's great to be here. For those of you who haven't seen me around town, I'd be surprised. I've been a resident of Belmont Lake for over 62 years, and my grandparents started originally buying the land up in Belmont Lake in 1933. I've also had the pleasure, I guess, of knowing that my wife's grandfather was a physician, and in 1933 he became the founder of the hospital as a physician, and he was the first one to start up CMH. So a little bit of ties back to this. I was happily retired at Belmont Lake when Kevin gave me a call and said we could use some of your help. And I just finished a 14-year career at Arnprior Hospital and redeveloping a nursing home there. And so this is something that I was interested in doing, and certainly helping out the community. And I know how vital this hospital is to the community of Havelock and many other places. So next slide. Kevin talked about these three that are the reasons that are there, and I'm just going to highlight those ones on the next couple of slides. So we'll go to the next one, please. Today's pandemic. So what's happened right now is where our inpatient unit is, and many of you have probably visited a friend or a family member on the inpatient unit. It's on the, if you will, the second floor or the first floor, depending on if you count the basement. There are 34 beds that are there. Unfortunately, this is the part of the building that was built in the 1950s. And as a result, then it is not designed in a manner that allows you to isolate patients. And when I say by isolating patients, that means, for example, our special care unit, where we allow people if they have a heart condition. These patients are not separated by 6 feet apart, and there is no separate ventilation system for them. As well, that we can't segregate the 34 beds. Hospitals, you'll be able to segregate the 34 into 17, etc. to that when it was designed back in the 50s, that wasn't necessary. So what's happened then is that when we had twice this year, when we've had COVID outbreaks, i.e. 5 or 6 or 7 people in the hospital, the public health had to, and we could not. So if you came to our emergency department back in early January and you needed to be admitted for a medical condition, we couldn't admit you for over 10 days. And you had to be transferred to either, usually it would be Quinte or it would be Peterborough. And that has again. And so that's we can't, as Kevin said, COVID may be over, but you know, we had SARS before, then we had COVID, and then who knows what else is going to be. So we can't continue to have a hospital that's supporting our community where you have to close down the beds whenever you have these two viruses. Next slide. The campus of care. So I've been obviously following your redevelopment of a long-term care facility in Havelock, and this is great. For those of you that are wondering, we have lots of people who are waiting to go to long-term care. Today in our hospital, for example, 20% of the people in our hospital right now are waiting to go to a long-term care. So clearly the entire area needs more long-term care beds, and when Havelock gets theirs on board, as well as the ones for Campbellford, then we'll be able to service our community more appropriately. And when I talk about more appropriately, when we have people who are here in the hospital right now waiting to go to a long-term care facility, what happens then is that they don't have the programming. Say, for example, they are not going out to a dining room. They don't have the activities, etc. This is not a great place for somebody to be waiting to go to long-term care. So the sooner that both our communities can get our facilities up and running, the better off it will be. In our plans, what we plan on doing is locating on one piece of property and sharing services with the long-term care facility. So for example, we may share a kitchen. We may share planning for senior services, etc. You folks have some of those same type of opportunities as well with your housing. Ours will be a little bit more to a larger scale, but I think you understand what that's about. So the challenge here then is for us, we need to be able to go to the long-term care facility and tell them this is the spot where you're going to be able to build. The long-term care facility that is here in town, an Omni Home, needs to be rebuilt by 2025. If they don't, they will lose the licenses. And so we need to be able to go to them and say, we have a spot where you can rebuild as well. And we want it to, the hospital may come along 2 or 3 years later, but we want Omni to say, this is where we're going to build, and the hospital will come on board afterwards. If we don't identify where the land is and have that commitment from the government, it's possible Omni Homes will move somewhere else and get their own 5-acre site of land, and then we won't be able to build this campus of care. Next slide. Kevin mentioned this as well about the facilities. So we've done various assessments of the facilities, and it requires close to $24 million in upgrades. So one of the most recent ones that I've been working on is an upgrade to the generator system. So far, it's looking like $5 million to upgrade our generator. And you may say that seems like an awful lot of money, and it certainly is. But the main reason is because it requires replacement of our emergency power distribution system to the tune of $2.5 million. So we've been really pushing the government to saying, why would we be putting this money into a facility where we believe you should be building a new one and not keep on making these types of investments in the facility? So you get an idea there, the types of things that we need to put in place, and there's come at a significant cost, and they also mean that the facility is in a poor state of repair, and in some cases then there's some life safety issues as well. Next slide, please. So we'll go on to the one after this, the benefits to our community. Next slide. We talked a little bit about this co-location. We have done some assessments, and we believe that if we partner with the long-term care, we will save both operation costs and capital costs, because we would jointly operate programs together. This is based on my experience in Arnprior, where I had a hospital and a long-term care facility working together. Long-term care facilities are not funded with a significant amount of money, neither is a small hospital, and so where we could share services, the better off we would be. Next slide. The quality of experience, and again, for those of you that have been on the hospital, I'm very disappointed to see that back in 1952, they built patient rooms that don't have washrooms. And so we have 4 patients right now who have to put on their gown and walk down the hallway to go to a bathroom. This isn't appropriate at all. We as well don't have enough private rooms. So what happens right now, you need to go into a private room until we get a test back for COVID, and then we will then move you to another room afterwards after you've tested negative. That starts to take up an awful lot of our private rooms, and when we don't have enough private rooms, then we take a semi-private room, and that's a room where 2 people would be, and we put a patient into there. So what we're doing is we're taking beds out of service because we don't have enough private rooms. If we were to build a new hospital, similar to what they're doing in Ottawa at the Civic Hospital right now, new hospitals are all built with private rooms. You do not build hospitals anymore with 3 or 4 patients to a room. It is not good care. It doesn't result in a great patient experience either. We've done a big air quality study. I'm looking at that to see what's going on there. But we believe that there will be some deficiencies with respect to the air quality. And again, it's because our HVAC systems are extremely old. We also don't have what we refer to as a negative pressure room. So that's where we take all the air out of a particular area and ventilate it outside. Again, those are standards of care that most hospitals have right now. For us to put in a negative pressure room in this hospital right now, we're probably $500,000. And so again, you come back and saying we can put in some of these best practices, but one, who's going to pay for it? Number two, why would you do it if you really believe the longer term strategy is to have a new hospital? Next slide. I think this one, we've got cost-effective solutions, I guess. But what I wanted you folks to know is that we expect an increase in our emergency department visits by 33% by 2040. We see approximately now 20,000 emergency visits, so we're expecting 30,000. The emergency department obviously wasn't designed for 30,000 people. We expect as well to see our admissions go up by 36% by 2040. Today, I can tell you in the hospital, we're at 136% occupancy. So we have people in the emergency department now waiting for beds. So our problem here in Campbellford, then, if you hear Toronto or some of the other bigger hospitals, people are waiting for beds in the emergency department. We're no different here in Campbellford. Unfortunately, what we haven't done is let the community know about that. Part of that issue then, as I mentioned, is about the long-term care beds, but part of it is our communities, both Havelock and Campbellford, Hastings, and many other ones are expected to be growing in the next little while. And so we will need the additional beds. We anticipate the hospital will go from 34 beds up to 50 beds by 2040. Next slide. We talked a little bit about the campus of care, so I won't go into that one anymore. But other than just to say, this idea of co-locating hospitals and long-term care facilities all on one site is a government policy direction. There are 33 of these campuses of care available right now in Ontario, and so what we're trying to suggest to the ministry is that we will be following their policy. Next slide. That should be okay. I think this is the last slide that I had. Then thank you for sharing the slides. I guess, Mr. Mayor, I would like to say two thank yous to you. One is that I know that the council has sent a letter off to the minister recommending the redevelopment of Campbellford. I believe we hit 11 municipalities set that letter in, and as well, you copied your respective MPPs. What's quite interesting about Campbellford and the service areas, we have 4 MPPs that are impacted by our service area. And so thank you very much for copying then on that. We had 11 municipalities to win, and as well as some of the MPs as well. So thank you very much for doing that. That was very helpful. And last, I guess I'd want to note as well, Mr. Mayor, is that we have acknowledged as well that you have been a long time financial supporter of the foundation to buy medical pieces of equipment. The foundation brings in close to $1 million a year, but our demands for medical equipment this past year were probably about 1.4, 1.5 million. So every bit that everybody does helps very much, and we certainly appreciate both your financial contribution as well as you penning the letter of support to the Minister of Health. That'll be about the end of it, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Eric, and thanks, Kevin, for your part in this. And yeah, I've known Eric for quite a while, and so this is what retirement looks like, Eric?
No.
Anyways, you're doing a great job, and I've never seen Campbellford in the news as much as it has been since you got there, and I think that's something that was missing. Some people might not even know it was there, but Havelock-Belmont-Methuen knows what Campbellford Hospital means to our community, and that's why we put such an investment into it, and we support it 100%. The big thing you said there about working together, and that's something that moving forward, I think we both have to do, whether it's our long-term care or your hospital. If we could work together here to, explain to people how important it is and try and get things moving, maybe we can get it happening sooner than later. So thank you for this, and lots of good information here. I'm going to open it up to council if they have any questions. Is there any questions for Eric or Kevin? I'm not seeing any. So anyways, Eric, this is good information, and I'm sure we'll be speaking again. But yeah, look forward to what's in the future for Campbellford Hospital, which I think will be good things.
We are, I think, as well, Mayor Martin, we are as well running a story on the collective support from all the municipalities, because it is very, very important. You know, this is not about Eric. This isn't about Kevin. You know, this is about everybody in our community saying we need to have the hospital and it needs to be a priority now. So I know that our communication person was developing that letter. I believe they've reached out to you, Jim, and a few other people to saying, could you please give us the quote as to why this was there? We want your constituents as well to know that you are 100% behind this and supporting us. That's why we do what we do, right? You guys get in and advocate for us, and we need the community to know that you've done that. So thank you very much for participating in that as well.
Okay, well, thank you for coming today. So if there's no further questions, I'll look for a motion to receive the delegation. That's moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux and seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. Any questions or comments? Okay, all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, well, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Eric. Good information. Okay, we'll move into our next delegation here. And our next delegation is Elizabeth Fairley. Welcome, Elizabeth. I know you're going to be in person, so this is our hybrid side of things. We'll see how this works out.
Watch your step there. There you go.
Are we all?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Angione, and Council. By way of brief background, I'm the owner of number 15 Fire Route 80A. This property, excuse me, has a municipal road right-of-way owned by Havelock-Belmont-Methuen that runs roughly through the middle. There are two small chunks of crown land abutting this right-of-way, one on each side, leaving me with the title ownership of two packages of land, one on each side of the right-of-way that we do not own. I'm making presentation to both purchase this right-of-way and or to request an exemption to any bylaw preventing this from happening. There are, in my mind, 4 reasons I feel support of our purchase of this right-of-way are valid. First, this land is of absolutely no use to the township. The majority of it is wetland, which, unless the law has changed, cannot be filled in according to federal law. It therefore cannot be used for any public purpose. As well, it's inaccessible at one end by reason of a cliff and a gravel pit. It is only accessible at the water end by boat or by swimming, which brings me to my second point. Why would anyone want to take a boat and go into this swamp? The people we have stopped were there without exemption to hunt frogs for fishing. Frogs, as you know, are a major endangered species. Many magical nights when I was young were spent lying in bed listening to the king bullfrog of our swamp communicating with the king bullfrog of the swamp next to the public beach. There are no more bullfrogs. They are poached and completely gone. I want to protect what is left in this wetland, which I can do and the township cannot. Third, one day, a very long time ago, I actually checked my property tax bill and discovered that I was being billed for 250 feet of water frontage. This was an impossible number of feet. My research revealed that I was indeed being taxed on all of the frontage of both the municipal right-of-way as well as the crown frontage. The judge of the tax appeal ruled in my favor. Despite the fact that I had paid taxes for decades on property that I did not own, they rebated me only 1 year of overpaid taxes. Clearly, by any and all accounting, I have paid for this right-of-way not once, but several times over. Fourth and lastly is the reason of precedent. This actually is my third attempt to purchase this land. The first time was decades ago when council indeed did agree to this. However, the price they quoted was beyond my means at that time. I remember my lawyer saying, that's quite the price for a swamp. So actually there is reason of precedent because council at one point did agree to this request and exhibited a willingness to sell. Further, it has come to my attention that rights of way have indeed been sold on this lake, striking an even greater precedent. Lastly, I want to say, I recognize that the purchase of this municipal right-of-way will not complete our parcel, as the Crown still owns those 2 small sections. However, I'm comfortable having Crown nestled under my arm as a neighbor, because they are proposing nothing for their sections, neither selling nor future development. The Crown has never aspired to use their section for anything. The only entity proposing possible future public use is you, the municipal government. It's my fond hope that we can work together collaboratively to show responsible stewardship for this land. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. And yeah, I am familiar with this property, and you're right. We road allowances that lead to the lake, we've always had a policy about not selling them. But this one, you know, I do see some differences from others. But that being said, I don't think it could be decided today, but I do think this should be forwarded to the planning department if they want to relook at it, but that's up to council. But we could look at this as far as there is no access to the lake there, because you're right, it is a swamp. But we have to treat these carefully, because we have had issues in the past where you sell off a property that leads to the lake and it ties things up. So the safest way for council, I think, today would be to receive the delegation and forward all this information over to our planning department, and possibly council could go out and take a look at it. Like, everything looks different when you're on the ground. From you know, you provided lots of good information here, but it might be good for council to go out and look at the spot and familiarize. It's everything looks different in person, but it's kind of a unique. I've never seen one like this, and I've seen a lot of things, but with the road allowance going between your property there, it's almost like you have 2 lots there, and that's something I've wondered about when I first looked at it. So anyways, I'll leave it up to council here. Has council got any questions for Elizabeth? Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Excuse me, I don't have any questions, but you've already stated we have several of these in our municipality. We have to be careful moving forward. We don't want to create any backlots. So I would make a motion that we receive the delegation and ask the planning department or have the planning department look at this and bring us back a report.
Okay, so I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a seconder for that motion?
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Ellis. Okay, so there's a mover and a seconder. Do I have any questions or comments for Elizabeth before she leaves? Seeing none. Okay, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? And that's carry. Well, thank you, Elizabeth, and we will get onto this right away and take a look at it. And like I say, somebody will get back to you here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Take care. So we will move into staff reports for information. I'll wait till Bob gets back in his seat, and then we'll move on. You move that, Barry, we'll be able to see you.
It's no bonus.
All right, so I see Bob back, so we're going to move into staff reports for information, and we have several items here, so I'll just go through them here, and if there's anything you wish to speak to, we'll do that. If not, at the end, we can just receive them all. So the first one here is the first one is the fire incident summary from February 2022. Is there any questions for Ray on that? Councillor Pomeroy and then Councillor Ellis.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. Incident summary says there were 34 emergency incidents, and the total calls on the sheet of paper are 25.
Okay. Ray, can you speak to that?
Yeah, I think I did an adding mistake here. Check into it, let us know.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Councillor Ellis, did you have the same question or?
No, Councillor Pomeroy had a sharper eye than me this morning. My question is, Ray, a few months back, in one of your reports, we had a discussion around medical calls, the number of medical calls. And I looked back through all my minutes of meetings prior, but I couldn't find it. But there was a discussion about working with emergency services to try to cut down on some of the minor medical calls. And like I say, I tried to find it in our minutes, but I couldn't. But I was wondering if you could give us an update or where we stand with that topic.
As it's through you, Mayor Martins, as it stands right now, it's just how the protocol works through the ambulance dispatching service and how the call comes in, where we get paged out. The priority of the call, whether it's delay in ambulance, if they're going to be over the 10-minute mark, and how the call is taken. There's not much we're going to be able to do with them.
Okay, excuse me, but I believe there, I thought there was some discussion where through you, Chief Haynes, that you thought that there could be a, I'm struggling for a word to describe it, but a way of indicating, excuse me, that if it's a very minor medical, that it would not call the fire department out.
Again, it's how the call is taken through the ambulance dispatch. There's certain wording in there, and if it's a shortness of breath or something along that line, it just prompts us to be paged out.
I understand that part of it. So I'll leave it at that, but I think at some point it would be good for council to invite the proper people from the medical services that respond. I've lost the contact names there now. Excuse me. And we could maybe have a discussion around that to see if there's any way that you know, we can improve the number of calls that come to the fire department. Because if we look at report after report, the biggest majority are medical calls. So I'll leave it with council and staff and Chief Haynes. But I think it would be a worthwhile discussion with the proper people there.
Yeah, and that probably is something good that we should invite EMS to, you know, give us an update. I know Dave and I received an email this morning about offloading delays at the hospital, and they're dealing with that today. And anyway, so that'll even spark things for our township to go to these calls, because the ambulances are tied up. So it's a really complicated thing, and it's happening even in the city. The HC and ladder trucks going to medical calls, but they're doing it too. And it's an expensive piece of equipment, but it's something they haven't been able to get under control, because yeah, it's all how it's worded with dispatch, and it triggers something for everyone to respond, even if it is a small issue. But I think you're right, Councillor Ellis. Maybe we could see if we could get EMS to come and give us an update, like a quarterly update or something like that. And as a township, because I know all the other townships have questions too, and maybe they're doing that. We just haven't asked. So yeah, so Bob, maybe if we could get a motion, I guess here moved by Councillor Ellis that we invite EMS to come and give us an update. That might be an appropriate motion, and if we could get a seconder to that, we can see where it goes. So is that okay with you, Councillor Ellis?
That's fine. You took the words right out of my mouth. Thank you.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Ellis that we invite EMS to a future council meeting to give us an update on what's happening with them and how they're dealing with things. Is there somebody that would like to second that motion? Seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. Any further questions to that? All in favor? All in favor? Okay, and that's carried. Okay, well, thank you. All right, we'll move into the next week. Okay, Ray, go ahead.
I just would like to verify it was 25 calls for February. I just had a look here.
I think it's one of those cut and paste things, and you're up to 35 last month. So.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we'll move into your next report, Ray, and that's, your annual report. Well done. Anybody got any questions with that? Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Martin. First of all, thank you, Chief Haynes, for a great report for your 2021 annual report. It would be really great if the whole of our municipality could read this report, because it definitely shows our fire department, the challenges that they have, the work ethics, the number of calls, the different situations they get into. Some of them are not very nice. So it is a great tool for information. Job well done. There's things in here that the public don't realize what we have and how we deal with it. The many pieces of equipment, where they are, how many firemen we have, and so on. So it's a great report, Ray. Thank you very much.
Okay. One of the questions I had last night there, Ray, when I was reading it, was the numbers that you have for volunteers. I imagine you're going to be going out, but I counted like 21 or something like that. Maybe my math was the same place where yours was for this other report, but I don't know. Are there any concerns of the numbers that we have there, or are we going to work on that?
I'm hoping to do a hire here by the end of the month. There's going to be more on the department because of the COVID, and we had to shut down training. There was no sense bringing people on with nobody being here to train.
That's right. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Is there any other questions for Ray? Barry, go ahead, and then Councillor Ellis had another one.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Chief Haynes. The tanker shuttle, are we due to have another one shortly, or?
Next year.
For the accreditation? Okay, my concern is still the same as it was before, is using treated water from the municipality to make this tanker shuttle. When you could be drafting maybe from a lake or something rather than using treated water.
The way they want it done is through a 24/7 water source, and that's their rules. There's not much we can do about drafting.
Well, that is a 24/7 water source, the lake.
And not in the winter time, it's froze. We have to cut a hole in it, and then that's why we have the dry hydrants, and that's why we have to be within the municipal water system distance.
Yeah, it seems a shame that we pay big dollars to get our water treated, and then it's wasted. That's my point, because we do run very, very close to our capacity limits every year. So it's something to look at. I feel that there has to be another way of doing it rather than taking it out of the fire hydrants, and it's a waste of money.
Okay. All right, then. Well, yeah, so Chief Haynes will look at that, and it's hopefully the people are benefiting in their insurance end of it to pay for that water anyway. So we'll see where that goes, but hopefully you made a note there, Ray, to check into that again. Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I'd like to thank Ray for this report because it was very educational when you're not involved with the fire department. And in any way other than a councillor, a lot of the stuff that's in this report you either didn't know about or you forgot about it. So just a great report to remind anybody that read that report of what goes on and what's all is involved. I do have one question. And I thought I had answered the question previously from people asking. So the question was around the deputy fire chief having a truck and it's taken to the fire station 2. My answer to anybody that asked was, well, it's there so if there's a call after hours, he doesn't have to go to the fire station 1 to respond. But when I look at this report, there's another vehicle that's parked at fire station 2 that the deputy fire chief could use to respond to. So that's my question. I thought I had it answered before when people would ask me why the truck is parked there, and I would say, well, after hours, if there's a call, the deputy was down the road 100 yards and he's in a truck and gone. But there is a truck available there.
Okay. Ray, do you have anything for that?
There is a truck. Yes, there is a truck parked in the fire hall for medicals, accidents, everything else. The deputy chief's truck has been used. We've used it for traffic. We've also had to run back and use that truck to put our basket in to bring a patient out of the woods and or up out of a rock cut, which doesn't fit in the emergency truck sitting in the hall. And we've also have the big bins for like spills, hazmat, oil spills, gas spills that we throw in the back of that truck as well.
Okay, well, that's just more good information. Like I say, I thought I had it answered before until I'd seen this report. Now somebody's going to see that and call me and say, well, there is a truck there. But good reasoning, and I understand now. And anybody that's watching this council meeting will have that report, and I can also relay that when I get the next call. Thank you, Ray.
Okay. So is there any other questions or comments around this report? Okay, I'll look for a motion to receive this report.
Motion to receive, Mr. Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Ellis, seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Ray. So we'll move into the next report here. And like I say, if these are for information, and if there's, we can receive them at the end, the balance of them, but there's a drinking water report here. Is there any questions around that? Okay. Next, there's the inspection report there with regards to water. And okay, and next there was a sale of the hoists at the Midtown property. And the report on the closed session meetings, a summary of the meetings. So I would look for a motion to receive the balance of the reports for information. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy.
Over the question, please.
Okay.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. The drinking water reports, it's quite in depth. And you know, I'm sorry that we don't have Aqua here to maybe explain some of the questions. I see we're still high in sodium in our water. There's a couple other questions that I probably would like to have had answered. But since we do not have them here to present the report, it's pretty hard. So, but it's something everyone should look at, because this is something that every councillor puts themselves on the hook for. Because if something happens, we are the people named. And we, it's not only the municipality that's gonna get sued, it's gonna be us. And I wanted to have an update on well 3. Because we did use it this last fall, when we had a pump down at the park down here. We had to pull a pump, and we used it, and I was quite surprised at the clarity of the water, because it came out very, very well. We only had one complaint, and I imagine the complaint where it came from was downtown, so it was probably the well, or the pump when they pulled it out of the well down here that made it murky. Because the water feeds from Old Norwood Road up to Concession and back down. And usually if there's any clarity problems at all, it's caught on Concession Street. So I would like to have a report on well 3 too, on the clarity side. I think we spent $65,000, if I'm not mistaken, on cleaning the screen, and we never got a report back saying that they've done it or they haven't done it. So it would be nice to have some of these questions answered. I have a lot more of them, but I'm not going to proceed with them at this time.
Okay, well, so the motion that you made to receive everything, I'll maybe pull that back then if you're okay with that. And maybe you should make a motion that this information goes on our website so people can see it. And that's up to you, but that might be something that should happen with it. Maybe it already has happened. But would you want to make that motion?
Well, I think in fairness to all the public, it's something that should be answered by the professionals. Most everyone that reads this report, they wouldn't understand it anyway. So it's
okay.
I'm kind of trying to look after council as a whole here too.
Yeah. So if there's no other motions, just make a motion to receive the balance of the correspondence then, or the reports for information. Deputy Mayor Droe, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Palmer has made a statement that the sodium is quite high. We go through this. The way I read the report, it is high, but it's well within the standards unless I'm reading something wrong. So I don't want the wrong information to go out there that there's too much sodium in the water. That's just clarification.
Yeah, we are in compliance. Everything is good with the water. There is some questions, obviously. So is there any other comments or questions from council? Otherwise, we need a motion to receive the balance of the information. I'll go to Councillor Ellis there first just to see, did you have a comment or make a motion? You're muted.
Both a comment and I'll make a motion. Councillor Pomeroy brings up some very good points. There is a lot of stuff in your water report that's not, unless you're a water technician, you don't understand. But obviously, Councillor Pomeroy, being from the village, has some concerns and wants some questions answered. So I would make a motion that we invite Aqua back to a future council meeting, give all the council a chance to look at the report and put together a list of questions that can be put to Aqua to answer. And that's my motion.
All right then, so moved by Councillor Ellis that we invite Aqua to go over this report, and I'm sure all of council has read it, and if they had questions, they can bring them there. But is there a seconder for that motion? Is anybody going to second inviting Aqua? Okay, Councillor Webb, are you seconding that, or did you have a question? Okay, all right, so we have a seconder for the motion. So if there's no other comments, I'll call a question. All in favor of the motion? So, and that's carried. Okay, we'll have to hold your hands up when I call for it, just so I can make sure I don't miss it, and we can move along quicker. But, Okay, so I'm looking for a motion to receive the balance of the sorry, I keep calling it correspondence, but the staff reports for information. So that's moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux. And do I have a seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. All right, so next we'll move into staff reports for follow-up action. And we have one item there, and that's Peter Lawson to deal with a connect water to Old Norwood Road property. Welcome, Peter.
Yes, good morning, Mayor Martin and members of council. Yes, this report is to seek council's approval for 758 Old Nord Road to hook into the municipal water system. He is currently on a well and is having some issues with the well and some sand getting into the house line. So he's would like to proceed and hook into the water system.
Okay. All right, then. What's council's thoughts there? Is there Deputy Mayor Giroux, are you moving that?
We'll move that, Mayor Martin.
Okay, moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux that we connect this property on Old Norwood Road. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Pomeroy.
Another question.
Yeah.
Do we know where it is?
Yeah, 758 Old Norwood Road.
Okay, 758. Whereabouts is that?
Through you, Mayor Martin, it's just east of the sewage lagoon entrance. It's almost right across from the old soccer fields there.
So there's water on that side of the road.
Yep, I know what you mean. Doug Brown's old property. Ken Brown.
Okay. Okay, if there's no other questions, I'll call the question. Is all in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you.
So next we're going to move into correspondence, and we have a few action items here. And I'll start off with the ORV with the county. I don't know if anybody wants to speak to that, but Dave, did you have anything to add into that, or?
I think the letter is self-explanatory through you, Mayor Martin. When on the map, Peterborough County at one time did not have ORVs going through the hamlet of Cadova for various reasons, but now they're asking for us to support that. It's a way of life in Cadova, in the hamlet of Cadova. I mean, it's well used. They're using it now. I haven't heard of any problems back there. So I've worked with Bob on this, our CAO, and we're, with council's approval, I'm going to simply say yes.
Okay. All right. So, so motion to move this.
I'll move it.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux and seconded by Councillor Ellis. Any questions or comments around that? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, our next item here is with regards to Bowen Road, and it's a limited maintenance road here that some people had some questions around. So Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Martin, I would simply make a motion to receive this letter and refer it to our roads department for them to bring back a report to council.
Okay. All right, so moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux to receive this letter, seconded by Councillor Ellis with a question.
With a question, Mr. Mayor. I'm curious, this isn't the first time we've had discussion about Bowen Road because of the road conditions. Given the fact that, as we all know, there's more and more people living full-time on the cottages that were seasonable. And this road is one of them. So I gotta, maybe for Pete, when he brings his report back, at what point do we change the road from a limited service to the next level up. At what point do we do that? And so maybe that can be part of Pete's report, because as I say, there's more and more people. We see it all around. We even see it in the private fire roads. More and more people are moving in and building permanent homes and so on. And I think this road is a good example of it. Maybe not as many as the road that we're looking at Fish Factory Road, but almost the same type of situation here. So I'd like Pete, if he could include that in his report when he comes back with the report on Bowen Road.
Okay. All right, then. That would be interesting to see the cost to bring that up to the standard, and that would be part of the report, I'm sure. So I have is that okay with the mover, Dave, that staff brings back a report on this road?
That's fine. I would, if Peter's still on, yeah, I'm sure he'll agree that he's only got so much money in his budget, so that'll come forward, I guess. So, yep, I'm in agreement with it.
Okay. All right. So we have a mover and a seconder, and Peter will bring back a report. So if there's no other questions, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay. The next report here is a similar one from Peninsula Road, and it does speak to what Councillor Ellis was talking about. I'm seeing this on so many roads. I know a lot of people on private roads that used to have 2 or 3 people living on them. They have 15 to 17 living on them now. Purelator trucks coming in every day. Things are really changing everywhere, and Peninsula Road is no different. And so it's asking for some work, and I think some of that might be included in the budget later. You know, there's some work that needs done, and I was in there last week, and there is a few things that need done, but I think, again, if we refer this to Peter and just receive it for today, I think he's already working on it, but so Councillor Webb, do you want to make a motion to receive this letter?
Yeah, I'll just make a motion to receive it and direct Peter to look into the situation.
Okay, so moved by Councillor Webb. Do I have a seconder for that motion? Deputy Mayor Giroux, you're seconding that? Okay. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay, the next item here is the request for occupancy of the lower level of the library. What's council's thoughts there? Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Martin, appreciate this letter from the library. Eventually, I think council has spoke to this many times before, but we haven't got right down to the nitty-gritty. What I would like to see is a kind of a detailed letter come from the library on what their plans really are. They're saying what they would like to do in this letter, but for me, I would like to see a detailed letter saying, okay, we're going to stay open 1 day a week, 2 day a week. Who's going to be looking after the bottom end of the library? Is it going to be open for the public without anybody there? I'd like to see some details, what their ambitions are, and a little more detail. Also, the fact that we do have a lot of furniture that we're going to be taking out of one building, and I'm not sure where we're going to be putting it. So, yeah, I'd like to, for myself, I'd like to see a little more detail, a little more. Who's going to be running it? How many days a week? Is there going to be a cost? And so on. Thank you.
All right then. So, Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there is kind of an explanation there through you, Mr. Mayor. Deputy Mayor Giroux. Says we will combine the genealogical section with historical society minutes or materials, and this would allow the showcase to share local rich history with our community school. Storage area for donated books will free up space in the main floor and eliminate clutter. It's an area where used and donate books can be sold. This will add to our revenue stream, thus reducing overhead. In addition, it further supports our community needs. Community meeting room. The library will use the space for various community presentations. We could potentially rent the meeting room for others to use. And we'll be able to provide additional children's programs and have volunteers anxious to participate. I don't know how much more self-explanatory that would be to anyone, but we've, fiddled with this thing for 2 years. And it is the library, and there's no added cost because we already pay all the bills that were there for Huckabug, except while they paid $1,000 a year rent. It is a library and always has been the library. We gave permission council passed a motion to let the Huckabug use the space downstairs for $1,000 a year. Well, I wish somebody would give me a room that size to start a business, because anyway, they have moved to the school where they get their grants from the Ontario government. And it's space not being used that we can utilize, and it's called a library. It isn't called a storage area for furniture. And if you want to store some furniture, we have a town hall in the bottom that there's nothing in it.
Okay,
So
all right. So,
that's my case, and I don't know how much easier or how much.
okay, I think, the theme of the day is to have some delegations come in and explain things a little better, and this is no different. I think there is some things listed. It's kind of a high level report. A lot's changed since we spoke to them a couple of years ago. Stepping Stones just moved the furniture out yesterday, so it's not like it's been empty for a long time. It just emptied out yesterday. So to have them in to explain some of the things that Deputy Mayor Giroux mentioned with as far as hours and costs and where's the money going, that if you're going to raise money for meeting room, just simple questions. I don't think anybody's saying no, but the other side of it that I have concerns is, we have another building that we're looking at. This was an ideal place for a doctor if we need it, or we have the town hall that we're keeping now, and we have lots of space in the basement of there that is ideal for a historical society. It's just talk to see. There's maybe answers to all that, but I don't think it hurts to meet with them and just get a little detailed report and a little one-on-one with council to ask the questions that they have. But that's up to council here. Councillor Ellis had a question, and then I'll look for a motion here.
Just not really a question, just a comment that as it was in the report that Councillor Pomeroy has brought, the library mentions the Historical Society and how it ties into the library. So I hope we're not forgetting that, because that's not a very nice place where they are presently.
No, it hasn't been open in 100 years, so it's a little dusty in there right now. And that's what I don't want to see here. Move all that stuff over to the library. It looks like they have a plan, and that's what I want to see, is a plan to show this stuff, not just to put it all in the basement of the library and leave it there for another bunch of years. But this looks good and it's exciting. I don't think it hurts to have them in for a little discussion. That's all. But okay, Councillor Webb, and then we'll look for a motion.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say I agree with Councillor Pomeroy. In that I agree with you in that we want to see what's going to go in there, but at the same time, too often I think we find, like as you said, Huckabug has moved out, and too often I think we get into these situations where we leave these rooms empty, and we need to be more prepared to have them, somebody moving in. So to his point, I'd like to see this process expedited, so we could maybe have this at the next meeting or two, and that way get a group that wants to use that space in there, so it's not sitting there for an extended period of time empty.
So what's your motion then, Hart? If you just want to make a motion that we move with this, is that,
Yeah, I'll just make a motion that we move ahead and get, as Councillor Pomeroy, if the Historical Society or whoever wants to use that space in here as soon as possible to explain what they, their plans, and then
Yeah.
hopefully move forward from that. So,
okay, all right then. So it's moved by Councillor Webb that we do invite them in, but we get this thing going as quickly as possible. I'll look for a seconder first, Barry, to get this. Are you seconding that?
Yeah, I'm going to second it. If Bob will read the motion back to me, please.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. So the motion moved by Councillor Webb, seconded by Councillor Pomeroy, is to move ahead with the changes in the basement of the library and invite the two proponents to come and address council and fully explain their plan.
Thank you.
Okay. All right then. So we have a mover and a seconder. Is there any other questions around this? If not, I'll call a question. Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
All in favor?
Okay. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, thank you. All right, so the next one here is a letter from Terry Reese with regards to docks at Peninsula. That's probably going to come up in the budget portion, so I just wonder if we should just move that into there. Bob, what's your thoughts there?
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin. I think it would be appropriate to move that into the budget discussion. That's coming up shortly in the meeting.
Okay, Deputy Mayor Giroux, you have a question?
No question, Mr. Mayor, but I do believe we should receive it.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll receive it and move it into the budget portion discussion. So moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux that we do that. Do I have a seconder for that?
That's the motion.
Seconded by Councillor Ellis. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay. All right then. So we do have reports for information here only, but one is with regards to the public review for the sale of the medical center. I think that's been circulated pretty well. And I don't know if there's anything else there that you wanted to bring out of there. Otherwise, the one thing I did have was the inspection of for the forest management that I think we usually put that on our website or circulate it to the HPMLA to make them aware that that's there. It's just a courtesy thing to let our cottage country know that there is this happening. So we've done that for years, so it's up to council, but I think we should forward that piece to them. What's your thoughts? Okay, so Deputy Mayor Giroux, you're moving that we forward that to HPMLA, the item number, what number is it there? Number 5 there, provincial government.
Number 5, yeah.
Okay, so moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux that we forward that to the lakefront people just so they can see what's happening in their area. Is there a seconder to that? Seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. So the balance of the.
Hang on, Mayor.
Oh, go ahead, Bob.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, just to clarify, item 1 regarding the public review of the medical center, just to clarify for the community, the sale of the medical center has not closed, is not complete. One of the conditions of the sale is that there be a public meeting to receive input on the sale that is proposed. So just to clarify, it is not complete. The sale has not closed, and council will receive delegations at the next meeting, at which time a decision will be made as to whether the sale shall be completed or abandoned.
So yeah, and I had a lot of questions around that of why it's after the sale, the proposal rather than before. And all I could say to it was there's a lot of items in there that people were concerned about that have been addressed in the paperwork that went through. So it's just a matter of, hopefully a lot of questions were answered when they read the proposal. So, we'll see what happens at the public meeting. but that's why it's after the listing. So anyways, so good information, Bob, and I guess I'll just look for a motion to receive the balance of the correspondence. Moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux and seconder. Is there anybody? Seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. All right, so next we're going to move into the budget discussions here, and we've, like I said, with all the minutes that we've had ahead of this, we've spent a lot of time on this, and I think we're to a point where we should be able to fine tune it here and move on. It shouldn't take a lot of time here. We've went through every department, but David, I don't know how what the format is, but I'll open it up to you, and we'll see where it goes here.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor Martin. Can I propose a quick 5-minute bio break?
5-minute break?
Yeah.
Okay, if that would help you, yeah, I'll look for a motion for a 5-minute recess, and then we'll come back and get into the budget. Moved by Councillor Ellis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Giroux. All in favor? And that's carried. So we'll come back at let's say 10:50 to round it off there. Come back at 10:50 and we'll get going on this.
Thank you.
Okay. All right then, David. I'll get a motion to resume here from council. Somebody want to make a motion to carry on with the meeting? Moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux. Seconder. Somebody want to second that? Seconded by Councillor Pomeroy. I can't see Hart, so all in favor, and I'll just see if the majority is there, and we're there. So David, thank you. I see a lot of work went into this, and look forward to your presentation here. You're muted. Council chamber's muted. Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Today we're wrapping things up. All of council's direction has been incorporated into the current budget, and finally we're now able to drive down to a 2022 proposed tax level, which, if you look at the screen right now, the snapshot is 2.20% proposed. There are a couple of outliers. The outliers are the direction specifically given by the community, and I'll direct everyone to this bottom chart that sums up possible additions to the plan. And I want people to hone in on the fact that due to the reserves that council has diligently contributed to year over year, we're able to do these initiatives with no increase to the budget this year. On that note, I will pause, and I'd like council to deliberate on this now, please.
Okay, the one question I have, we do have something on the agenda around Aqua and proposed water and sewer rate, but it has a summary of some things that they're going to do. Is that already in this budget then, David, or?
It's already incorporated into it.
Okay. All right then. So yeah, so the rest of the things here, it's yeah, lots of good information. And the one other question before I open up the council too is the $100,000 for better maintained roads. That's the gravel haul. The way I understood it, we already had 50 in the budget, and then this was 50 from OMPF. I don't know if Peter's on here, but that was the only thing I picked up there quickly. But the rest of the things look in order. So.
Through you, Mayor. Yes, that is correct. It is 50 plus the extra 50,000 we're contributing this year. Total of 100 for summary purposes. But
okay.
Yes, other things worth noting are the priorities from the township. What people want focused on. A lot was infrastructure. A lot of comments on George Street, and also comments on investing in our water and sewer. I want people to realize that the fund reserve is a dedicated reserve specifically for that has a current balance over 1.5 million. So we're ahead of that. Very important, critical infrastructure, but don't want our community to think that isn't in front of us. So.
Okay. All right. Well, there's some good information here, and yeah, and I think the gravel haul benefits a lot of roads, and I think some of the discussion we had earlier, it would give the roads department some flexibility because the 50,000 could be eaten up on 2 roads. This will give them a little more wiggle room to maybe, like even some of the letters that we've seen earlier, they might be able to touch up some of these roads. One of them was Peninsula, one of them was our limited maintenance road there, Bowen Road. So that extra 50,000, I think at one time we used to do $100,000. I think it was every other year though. So it's just something to get caught up, I think, on where we're at. So I really like that idea there. So is there any questions around these? Go ahead, Larry. I can see you.
That's through you, Mr. Mayor. All our gravel roads this year, for probably due to the type of winter we had, are not in good shape, big time. And I'm just through you to Peter. I'm just concerned, or do we have enough in the budget to make sure that those roads are looked after? If Peter's available.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. Yes, the extra $50,000 will go a long way into bringing some of those roads back up. To Councillor Ellis's question, that it was a lot to do with the winter. Last winter was the same. The frost comes out so fast, it seems, in the last 2 years, and that's what causes the roads to go so soft so quick. If it was a slower thaw and the frost come out slower, it would be a different alternative. But the extra 50,000 in the budget for some gravel on the roads would be greatly appreciated for sure.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. I know the second line, I had the opportunity to have a drive down through that one, and it's in terrible shape, and it's a lot of traffic on that road. I didn't realize the amount of traffic that road gets. Anyway, just glad to see. I knew you'd have it covered, but just wanted to confirm. Thank you, Peter.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. Just to answer Councillor Ellis there, we did get some gravel down on the corner of the intersection of the second, and it is now graded as well. So it is in much better shape as of yesterday.
Yeah. Are there plans there for the summer there to do any upgrade there, Pete?
Yes, it's in the scope of work to lift the gravel on the second line, Councillor Ellis.
Thank you, Peter.
And I know another road that's actually already had some work done on it is West Kosh. They spent 2 days up there last week trying to get it back in shape too. It blew apart too. So anyways, Deputy Mayor Dro, you had a question?
Thank you, Mayor Martin. I think there's a couple of factors driving this, as Councillor Ellis has spoken to, is the weather. But one of the other factors that Peter's going to have to deal with is the tenders are coming in quite a bit higher because of the fuel costs. So if Peter wants to comment on that, that's fine. And if you don't, that's fine. But I know that they must be coming in higher. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Mayor Martin.
Okay. All right. Peter, I don't know if you have anything to add to that, but I know that's going to be a big factor on everything in life. So I'm sure it's going to affect this gravel haul because 90% of it, and it's going to affect our hard top too, because a lot of that's oil. So there's going to be a huge increase in all of these projects. So hopefully we have enough in there. Any other questions around these items here? The priorities haven't been agreed upon. So the rest of the budget we've spent a lot of time on, and a lot of work went into it, and I think it's pretty close there. It's pretty well there. It's just these other items which don't affect the budget. They're just it's making better use. 2 of the items there are council initiative, which we joke about all the time, but it's a thing there that allows council to get some projects out of the way, you know, for the community. So just well done, David. It's there. So is there anyone else? Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, too, Mr. Mayor. I see we have a $4,000 for the Peninsula Boat Launch. The one of our previous CAOs, I think, explained to us in no uncertain terms that we're not in the deck or dock business. That, you know, this has been brought up many years. So it's private. It's a ministry dock. I know it's hard to get money out of the ministry, but what happens if we put money into it and somebody slips and falls? It's a liability to the township then, is it not? You know, a dock that slips and falls. It's only.
Yep, everything's a liability, and I think it was brought up at the last meeting around grading the parking lot. Maybe we shouldn't be grading the parking lot anymore either, but there's things that you do, and you know, this isn't enough to pay for a dock. The idea, I think, is to partner with them back there, which we do sometimes, and that's kind of goes back to the letter that we received from Terry Reese. So these things are all on the table, and I basically wanted to go through them just yes or no, and you know, and if you want them pulled, now's the time. If you want to keep everything that's there, we can make a motion to go with everything that's there. So so I'm just going to open it up to council, and like I say, I can't see Councillor Webb on this screen share, so if he has anything, just yell at me. But I think it's all good. There's no effect to the budget, the bottom line, and it's making good use of some things here. So Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. All I see on the screen here is the description of some of the items, the infrastructure, recreation, environmental. Are we going to, I guess through you to Dave, are we going to review the department finals, or how are we doing that today?
Well, we've pretty well done that. The only thing I was going to bring up here is you have something in new business around the trucks. So that's going to have to be dealt with. And my idea was, I'm hoping not to stall the budget. We have to get this done today. If we don't get it done today, we might as well leave it. So that can always be referred to the truck committee, or the, you know, to deal with the policy that we have. Because right now the policy says that the truck should be replaced, and we already taxed for them. But that being said, if we haven't, if we're not comfortable with that, this is the time we could hopefully defer them over to that committee without holding the rest of the budget up. But I know you have something in new business, and this is the time if you want to bring that out.
Yes, I do, through you, Mr. Mayor. I disagree with the comment that we've already approved and budgeted for, because there's two departments that are asking for new trucks that have never had new trucks before. And therefore, the reason for they're under business to bring that topic forward to review that. But my point is, are those 3 trucks in this budget? Because that's over 150,000 that we're looking at.
I don't think they are. They're in a reserve or something. But David, that's something you're going to have to answer.
Through you, Mayor Martin, I'm happy to report that the trucks have been pulled out of the budget per councillor's feedback. Appropriately moved over to potentially the truck committee. So.
Okay, and that is okay. Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, because I always keep my previous budget books, and I went back for one of the departments that are asking for 2 trucks, and there were no place where council had give information to approve that. And I was working with David on some of it, but I just wanted to make sure that they're not included in this budget. And then when we review the policy, if that's the wish of council, then we can carry that forward for another year, but not this year.
Yeah. Very good. Okay. Yeah, and I think that would help us get this thing moving, or finish this where we're at. And yeah, it's going to be a discussion. It's too bad that we formed that committee, I think, a few months ago, and there was only one meeting. And I know we're busy, but I think this needs to be dealt with as soon as possible. And once the budget's done, it'll give more time for staff to work with the committee and come up fine tune that policy, because the policy's there. And if it wasn't in the reserves here, you're right. It's got to be looked at on how we get it into the reserves if it needs to be, or get it from the reserves if it needs to be. But okay, so let's just leave it at that then. It's not in there, Councillor Ellis, so that'll be dealt with.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll leave it at that. We can discuss it further with the discussion around the policy. Thank you.
Okay. All right then. Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Martin. Question to David. In regards to the trucks, the trucks in question were never budgeted for in the past. Is that correct? Because they were hand-me-downs?
Mayor Martin, there is communication with the head of Parks and Rec and the previous treasurer in this regard. It is not proven that this was discussed in open council in the 2022, or excuse me, 2020 and 21 budget approval process. Going further into this, into the minutes of these meetings would be a way to bring that to light. That's where we stand right now on budgeting year over year to the reserves to help facilitate these truck replacements.
Thank you.
Okay. So, and there was some discussion around leasing too, and you know, that'll be another part of the discussion, because there's a new proposal, I think, going to be coming to County Council eventually here. I don't think they're going with it 100%. So, but we'll see what comes out of there. But Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd like to know who's on the committee. I think I was, but we haven't met in so long. I pretty forget who's on the committee.
Yeah, I think you were on there, and I'm not sure who the other person was, whether it was Dave or Larry. Was it Dave? So, Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead. Did you have a question or comment?
No, there was two of us on the committee, along with the managers who have trucks, and Bob. That's the members of the committee.
Okay. Bob, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin. We've mentioned it a couple of meetings now with respect to this truck committee. The truck committee met, and the direction from the truck committee was to explore the leasing option, which is what's happening. And there's no, that issue remains a work in progress. As you just indicated, there is an expectation there will be a report to County Council, perhaps at the next council meeting. At that point, we will be getting some clarity on that issue. But that was the direction from the committee. It's been a work in progress, and we're hopefully coming to the finish line here soon on that item.
Okay. So I think the committee should schedule another meeting following the budget meeting and get on with this. And it all goes around, like, you know, if it's not in the reserve or hasn't been taxed for, it's a different story. But if we've taxed for it already, the way it works is there's a schedule there, and you go by the schedule, and you get a truck. It'll be interesting to see if we go leasing and they're getting a new truck every 2 years, how the public responds to that. But that'll be another day. But right now, some of them are 7 years old. I don't know which ones are held up right now, like as far as I know the two in Parks and Rec, but I do worry about supply management. If we don't, two of them are plow trucks, I think they were okay. I think they carried through. So hopefully we're getting new trucks there, because next winter it's going to be hard with a shovel. So we better get on with it. So right following this meeting, I hope you know, the committee can set something up, and let's get on with the policy for truck replacement. So, but without holding the budget up today. So, okay. So, are you comfortable with that, Councillor Ellis, that the trucks aren't in there?
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Is there any other questions from council? Go ahead, Councillor Pomeroy.
David has his hand up. You can't see him very well.
Through your mayor, in terms of current events, we did circle back with the Peterborough County, who is the catalyst to HPM getting pulled in potentially to the enterprise fleet leasing option. The treasurer is presenting to her council on April the 20th. So we'll have real insight as to whether that program is possible for HPM. I think the business proposition is strong, and we'll have a meaningful update then. Our department heads, thank you for your patience on this, and we look forward to giving a meaningful update shortly.
Very good. Yeah, I think the 20th will, help a little bit if anybody wants to join in with the county on what they're proposing. So if it goes through there, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves here, because I haven't heard a lot of support about leasing. So anyways, okay, so that takes us back. So everything in the budget has been talked about and hammered out over the last several meetings, and it comes down to these priorities. And I suggest that we just go through them, and I can explain some of them. Some of them I don't know, but the environmental is a dedicated reserve for $10,000 for the lake associations. We have 10 major lakes. Whether they all take advantage of it, a lot of the discussion around them these days is shoreline preservation, education, and invasive species. So it might allow them to do, apply for a grant from the municipality to explore some of those things and help them out. So that's what that is. It's getting with the times, and then there is the boat launch, and that was something from Terry Reese's letter, and that's just we're advertising it on our website. He sent the link there, and if we're not going to do anything there and we're worried about liability, I think we should take it off our website and not recognize any boat launches. Don't even go there and pick the garbage up then, because we're doing that right now, and this is just a way of helping them out. There's a ton of people that use that, like all the others, but this is something that when they're asking for it, there's other municipalities or other lakes that have said to me, I don't want a dock on my lake, and it might be a little bit of a different story. But this one here, there is a group. It's kind of a different boat launch from many of the others. It's very busy, and whether they slip on the dock that's there or they slip on a good dock, we're going to get sued eventually anyway. So those sort of things, I think, are something that, we wouldn't do anything in the municipality on public spaces if we were, even with the beach. I mean, if somebody slips off the picnic table, who's going to get blamed? So anyways, so it's a minor thing, I think, but Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Yeah. Do we have any docks on any other lake?
I don't think so.
Thank
Just
you.
the one that's there. That's the only one we have.
Thank you.
Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, and back to the docks again. I think we've had many discussions on this, and I think Councillor Ellis asked a question way back when. How many people are on the island, or how many properties are on the island that use this dock to get to the island?
His numbers are, I think his letter has the numbers in it there, Barry.
Yeah, it said 20 to 50. That's quite a range. Start at the low side at 20 and you're up to 50. If you had 50 properties there over the last 5 years with a small contribution from 50 properties, you'd have a nice dock, wouldn't you? And I don't see,
Okay, so
municipal funds, it's great to ask for them.
yeah, it's like, we do roads in the township, we do roads in the town. We've hard topped a few roads in the town over the last couple of years, and it doesn't benefit anyone else. So this is just one of those things that we've been asked for several years, and it's up to council. So I'm going to go through the list here and call a question. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor Giroux.
I think thank you, Mayor Martin. I think it's time to move on with this dock. I think it's shameful that we can sit here and talk about this. We don't take into consideration, we'll say, oh, well, people on that lake don't want that dock. They don't want a dock on our lake. But it's shameful. Go to the lakes and watch the elderly or the handicapped trying to get in their boats without docks. If you're not a boat owner, and you're not on the lake, well, you don't see it. I've been a proponent for docks, and it, I know already, oh, we can't have them on all the lakes because they don't want them. Oh, that's fine. But here's a dock that's been on a lake as long as the lake has been there. I think the discussions are over. They need a dock. If somebody's going to fall, they're going to fall on the one that's there. Go back and have a look at it. We need to put a dock in there for the betterment of the people that use it, not only the people on the island. We do the beach, we do the library, we clean up there once or twice a week. I think they deserve a dock, period.
Okay, so one more comment from Councillor Pomeroy, and then we'll go through the list and we'll just call a question on each individual item.
Well, I hate to center that one out, Jim, but you, or Mr. Mayor, you've mentioned a whole bunch of things there that, you know, that we've done, hard topped roads and blah, 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 blah. The difference is we own that property that we're fixing. We don't own the dock. And there is quite a difference. I realize that these people want to be serviced. There's no problem there. But, you know, and, you know, you make it sound like we're taking everything here and doing it on all these township roads or in town. We own that property, like I said, and it does make a difference. We have to maintain what we own. What we don't own, we don't have to, but anyway, that's just I just wanted to clarify that what you said there before about, you know, what's getting this, and this, we own that.
Okay. All right then. So so I'm going to start at the top of this list here, and then I can't see Councillor Webb, so bear with me here. And David, if you want to go through the list there, and if there's something that somebody knows what it's about, like I think the gravel haul was pretty well explained, and the economic development person is there. The dedicated reserve for our environment is, I just talked about it. The Peninsula Boat Launch 4,000 was to partner with the group up there to get a better dock in there. The baseball net we talked about at the last meeting with regards to our park at George Street and stopping the balls from going into the park. Repairs on George Street we all know about. The second baseball field, that was something that I brought forward. I'm getting a ton of calls. Unfortunately, it's a good thing. Our baseball league with the kids in town is overflowing, and they're sending people to Norwood and Marmora because we can't accommodate them because we don't have enough baseball diamonds here. And this is something that's in our recreation master plan, that we look at creating another couple of diamonds. And this would be the work to do the design and get it going, because if we don't get something going this year, it's going to be 2 years out before anything happens. And I know Ryan has money in the grant money that's going to help with some of the field work, but this would help us get a design moving here so we know where we're going. The community said that this is important, and like I say, the calls I've had in the last 2 or 3 weeks just expedited this, that we need to get moving on it. Otherwise, we're going to lose another building season if we don't get the legwork done. So that's where that came from. Repairs on George Street, we all know that it's long overdue, and the county's going to be moving ahead here. I think some work has already started. And then the sewage treatment plant there from the reserve. So you know what they're all about. I can either go with all of them, or we can pick some of them out there. So Councillor Pomeroy, go ahead.
Yeah, I had one on the baseball diamond dam. I just wondered how the soccer fields, or how the soccer registration was now, because we had a big abundance of soccer, and then you know how it turns, it goes in cycles, and so now it's baseball. Is there any room at the school diamond, or do they have a diamond over there?
Yeah, they weren't able, there was a cost to it, and they weren't able to, it's a small diamond, and they were going to try and use it for this year, but it's not working very well. So, yeah.
Okay. No, I got no problem with it. I just wondered if some of the property that they used for the soccer, because they had oodles of children that wanted to they're registered for soccer, so I just wondered how that was going, so maybe we could, you know, use some of the property that we had allotted them.
Okay. All right then. So has anybody else got any questions, or does anybody have a motion for these priority items?
Got a question, Jim?
Yeah, go ahead, Hart.
Yeah, no, everything on the list looks good. I'm just worried from an accounting point of view in terms of us funding. I guess it's going to be a permanent position for the ActDev person. So should we be funding that at OMPF? Because it's going to hit us next year, right? So
That's a good point. David?
Through Mayor, there are options for this additional person. The idea of that department generating revenues out of the gate is not realistic. Through Councillor Webb's point, I skipped over to the reserve and reserve options that we could otherwise come out of. Money has to come somewhere. Given that we're sitting north of 14, 15 million in reserves, we certainly have abilities to do this multiple different ways. So I'm open to Councillor's direction on this. I will say, and I know what's coming next after the budget approval process, is to have a formal policy for our reserves, which I think would avoid this mixing going forward. Historically, all the grants have been typically rolled through, grants or contributions, federal or provincial, through the administration grant, which has caused confusion. You'll see right now we're sitting north of $6 million in the administration. That's more of an overarching reserve for all the departments, not just for administration, but for clarity, we'll have a better formalization of the reserves after this.
So most of that 14 million is dedicated to different departments and things that we've been kind of saving for replacement. But that being said, the OMPF grants that we've been getting over the last few years have been going into the administration. And so there's like, I know George Street could be something. If we're not successful in the grant for George Street, we're going to have to dig into that and pay for it. So I think it was more like $3 to $5 million that's still in there from OMPF. I'm not sure, David, maybe you can correct me.
That's correct, Jim. That sounds right through Mayor Martin. That is correct. Approximately, yes.
So Councillor Webb brought up a good point. Is there anywhere else within the administration? Like, this isn't a new position, so I don't know where the wages went from the previous position. Hopefully, I had hoped that they would have been kept in there and just carried over, but it sounds like they might have disappeared.
Typically, historically, through Mayor Martin, has been rolling up to the administration department in terms of budgeting for that person. Okay. We've carved out this department as standalone. Happy to rebalance, keeping the tax rate what is proposed at 2.20 for this year. There's ways to balance that and have this person, the 87,000 with benefits, absorbed, not through the OMPF. Councillor Webb's point is valid. Regardless, given the wealth of our reserves, given the way the budget's been structured this year, we have options.
Okay, and I think that's the big concern, because it's that would be quite a hit for the next council if they got to find that 80,000 or whatever. It'd be quite a spike. So, Bob, go ahead.
Oh, Jim.
Oh, sorry.
No, yeah, no, I just wanted, well, I just kind of said what you said in terms of, anything that's going to be a yearly cost to us, I think should be covered through taxation and not OMPF or even reserves, because we can really get off the rails when we're not following it that way. You know, I'm not saying that to David. David's done a super job here, but I'm just saying for councils going forward, if they don't see that kind of reflected in the tax rate, they're going to think there's no cost, right? So I think we got to be careful with that. So.
Martin, there is a dual reserve I just highlighted on here. It's the Planning Economic Development that has a balance of 286,000 that's shared between these two departments. So that is an option. Might be fair to carve this out though if we're really dedicated to this person and want this person to help build out HBM. We have options.
Okay. Without taxation? Or no, it's still taxation. We're still paying for it somewhere in there, but it's just, I mean, so nobody's going to get nailed with it next term or next year. That's our big concern, I think, is usually we use grants for one-offs and then it won't affect the next budget. So Bob, go ahead.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, I would just like to support the comments of Councillor Webb. I think he's right on with what he was suggesting. If this is a permanent staff position, which I believe is council's intention, this should not be funded through a reserve. And I think if we direct our treasurer to maintain the tax level at 2.2 while adjusting that particular item, I think we can still achieve the goal.
Okay. All right, then. That's a good point there, Art.
But yeah, thank you for putting that so eloquently, Bob.
Do you have anything else?
You're welcome, sir, anytime.
While you're on there, Hart, do you have any questions or comments around this?
Right, still learning to use my computer. Well, I don't know. I kind of have a comment about roads, but I don't know if I want to start something here this morning. I still have questions about the roads grant program, because we've had a number of comments here this morning. Good discussion about Bowen Road and other roads such as that are going to be coming up and needing more maintenance. So I'm just wondering, going forward, as has been said, these costs are only going to go up for the municipality. So, and I know some here on council obviously are against this road grant program, but the way I look at it is it's a cost sharing program. So I mean, we put money in, and obviously the people on the roads will put, you know, their half in, hopefully, for whatever policy we come up with. But otherwise, we're just gonna, as a council, start eating this, you know, whether it's next year or the year after or whatever. More and more of these roads are gonna come like they have today and want us to fix the whole road. And I think we could get ahead of this with, you know, say some kind of roads program where we could partner with these people, and at least, you know, obviously the municipality would give some money, but they would be putting in their own money too. So I don't know, I just throw that out there. I'm glad to see that there is extra money in there for the gravel haul, because as every member of council said, the roads have been have gone through a rough year or two. So, but that's about the only thing that I had, Jim. I don't know, like I said, I don't want to, we're well into this meeting already, and I know we've had good discussions on it, but I just throw that out there for maybe members of council to have another thought about.
Yeah, and that was in the survey too, about, and I know we beat that to death over the past few years, and yeah, so it's up to you if you want to make a motion to add that in there. The way it was working before was out of OMPF, and it was, I don't know what the number was last year, but it's been up for, I think, how many times, Barry? 6 years?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what I've been told. So, you know, so it's up to you, Councillor Webb, if you want to make a motion to include that in here from OMPF. It wouldn't affect the bottom line still. It wouldn't muddy things up, but
sure, I'll try one more time. So I'll make a motion then that we add 15,000 for the roads program, for private roads program.
a grant system.
Yeah. Matching grant system that will have to be worked out. The details will have to be worked out.
Okay, all right. Councillor Pomeroy, you got a comment?
Yeah, we went through this many times and it's been defeated, and I think maybe Councillor Webb, I don't know whether you don't understand it or not, but I mean, you're talking about some of these other roads wanting to be fixed up for the out of council initiatives or whatever. The roads that we own, we have to fix or make a motion that we fix them. The ones that we don't own, I think that motion's been on the floor. I think it was twice last year and was defeated because we don't own them, and you're opening a can of worms here that consume most of the budget in the future, because it's, do you realize how many roads, how many cottage roads we have, how many fire roads we have?
There's over 100.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
Yeah.
so you just carry on there.
Okay, so I know you're not seconding it, Barry, so
So,
I'll go to Councillor Ellis had his hand up.
Excuse me, through you, Mr. Mayor. Everybody recalls I had to declare conflict of interest. And if we're going to have that discussion again, I need to do that because I own a private road. So if we're having a discussion about this specific item, I'll declare.
Okay, well, there's a motion on the floor, so the discussion hasn't started yet. I'll see if I get a seconder for this motion. And then we'll see where we go from there then, Councillor Ellis. So Councillor Webb has put a motion on the table here for the private road grants for $15,000, similar to what we had last year. And if last year, if you remember, it was from OMPF, and it was a mirror of the Marmor Lakes grant system that they have over there for private roads. So, so he's moved it. Do I have a seconder for that motion? I can't second it, so some do. So, okay, I'm not seeing a seconder here, so it looks like it's defeated and shelved for another year. So. Okay, then. Thank you, Councillor Webb and Council. So, okay, so Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Just not prolonging this. Just one last comment on roads. Councillor Pomeroy has hit the nail on the head when we were talking about another topic. It's something we own, and so we have to look after it to whatever degree. And I just wanted to add that in there. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Well, just further to that, because we're getting into very, very dangerous territory here. We're talking about things that other people are paying for. For 2 years, we've subsidized the water rates here in town with COVID money. It was for the whole municipality. We didn't have to do that, but we did it. And I think these people here on the private roads are asking for the same type of relief that we were just talking about. So I'll leave it at that, and you can just.
All right, thank you, Councillor Webb, and yeah, it's defeated, so we'll just leave it at that. So, okay, so we do have the list here, and if there's nothing that anyone wants pulled, it's totally up to you. I need a motion here if we leave these things in here as presented, or if there's some changes you want done. So Deputy Mayor Giroux, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion that we leave them in.
Okay, so I have a motion that we go with what's presented here. Do I have a seconder for that? Does anybody want to second what's here? Okay. So I'm not seeing a seconder here, Dave. So so what's the motion here then?
what do you want pulled?
Yeah, what's the motion? It's obviously something is still there that people don't want to see, so pull it out and make a motion that we receive the balance. Okay, Bob, go ahead, help me out here.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, perhaps if we just go down the list one at a time and we'll get clear direction.
All right, then. So let's go through this again. The economic development has been straightened out. The gravel haul up to another 50,000, so it's $100,000. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, environmental, a dedicated reserve to help the lake associations with their education towards better lake or cleaner lakes. Is everybody okay? Okay, so we'll move into recreation, and we have the Peninsula Boat Launch and the dock. Okay. The next item is the baseball net, for the ball diamond there, and that's to protect the kids out in the park. It's come up a few years and finally we've got it on here. Okay, the second baseball field, the legwork to get it, the drawings for it. Okay, repairs on George Street. The OMPF, I'm not sure, I think that's already in there, and then the grant is for the extra, but I'm not sure. You can correct me if I'm wrong, David.
Through Martin, that is correct, yes.
Okay. And, okay, and then invest in the water and sewer plant. So we went through the whole list there and nobody's pulled anything, and we had a motion to just. So this is getting painful. I'm gonna ask it again. Is there anything here that we have, the motion was defeated and we have to, I don't know how you do that, Bob. You're supposed to have, it has to be a different motion, does it not?
Through you, Mayor Martin, the motion did not receive a seconder, so we start over.
Okay, so we went through the list. Nobody's pulled anything, but nobody wants to make a motion and second, or we had a motion. So can I get a new motion? And like I say, Bob, you're gonna have to direct us here on how that works when it, if it, because I don't know how it can be a different motion. We've just went through the list and nobody spoke to it. And now we're sitting on our hands here. So what's the thought here, Bob?
Well, through you, Mayor Motion, there was a motion, through you, Mayor Martin, sorry, not Mayor Motion. Mayor Martin.
All right.
There was a motion from Deputy Mayor Giroux that the list be left as is. There's no seconder for that motion. If there's no seconder for the motion is defeated and we will remove the list.
I'll second the motion too.
Okay, can that be done, Bob? Councillor Webb is seconding, and is Deputy Mayor Giroux still putting forward that motion?
I am.
Okay, and Councillor Webb is seconding that motion. Is that okay, Bob, with procedures?
Yep, through you, Mayor Martin, we now have a motion moved by Deputy Mayor Giroux, seconded by Councillor Webb, that leave in all items on the list.
All right then, thank you. So I'm going to open it up now for questions around the motion. Okay, Councillor Ellis, go ahead.
Just a little clarity. I think we all know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. The Peninsula boat launch. If we do not do anything, they repair or replace on their own, we're not on the hook for liability in any way. Is that correct, Bob? Through you, Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
go ahead, Bob.
Through you, Mayor Martin, that would be my understanding. Without getting a legal opinion today, that would be my understanding.
We don't own it, so we're not reliable, we're responsible.
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right then. Okay, so I have the mover and the seconder for this priority list as presented. So if there's no other questions or comments, I'm going to call a question. All in favor of the motion? And I can't see you, Councillor Webb, so speak up if you're voting on it.
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Okay. All right, so that's carried. Okay, so we've moved past that point there. David, can you show us what it looks like now? I don't think it's changed any, but is there anything else in there that we need to address? I know usually the water rate is a separate, it's a separate thing to vote on, is it not? Or is it just included in the whole budget?
Through you, Mayor Martin, it's included in the whole budget.
Okay. All right then. Is there any other questions around this budget? Is there any reason why we shouldn't move forward to pass the budget as it's presented? I'll look for a motion to move the budget and to pass it and take it to the next stage for the bylaw. So Councillor Ellis, you're moving it, and
I'll make that motion through you, Mr. Mayor, yes.
okay, and Councillor Pomeroy.
I'll second it with a question.
Sure.
Do we have to make this public, or is this public enough today?
I think it's public anyways. We're in a public meeting, so
Okay, no, I just wondered, we could call a public meeting for everything else after we. So, okay, I'm seconding it.
okay, so I have a seconder, a mover and a seconder. Any other questions around this? I'm scared to ask. Oh, go ahead, Dave, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Martin, I would like to thank all of staff and council who's worked very, very hard on this budget. It's long overdue. So thank you, all involved.
Okay, and yeah, thank you, staff and council. I think we've spent a ton of time on this, and I think we've uncovered a lot of things that have really helped us move ahead. We've got a few projects this year that are really gonna help the community. So hopefully we can highlight those in the future, but it will come for a bylaw at the next meeting, I think, Bob. So did I call the question all in favor? I'm gonna do that right now. All in favor of the motion? And that's carried. Thank you. Okay. The next thing we have here is liaison reports, and the first item there is Dave or I with the county update, and lots on the go at the county. I guess some of it will affect our ratepayers too, Dave.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, we had a busy session, last council meeting. We got a report from Randy Mellows. I, once again, will suggest that that's a long report, a very well done report. It touches on a lot of themes. So I would suggest that any member of council or any member of the public go on the county website and listen to his report. We had a report on re-enumerations for the 2023 council members that will be elected for the county, which actually involves HBM. So there again, it's something that involves us. It's an in-depth study, so I'm not going to get into that. Once again, if you want to understand it better, listen to the presentation. I'm sure there's other things that you can touch on, Mayor Martin, that will involve our municipality, such as our official plan amendment.
Yeah, there's several things, and I think it is the best if you're really interested in it to check out the meeting. But yeah, council remuneration was a big discussion, and it's no different than at the township level. When you talk about wages, it's really hard to speak to that. This is for the next term, so anything that comes out of this will be for anyone that's running next time. I think there's discussion on it at tomorrow's meeting. The other is with regards to development charges in the background. They're working on the development charge and how they're allocated throughout the municipalities. We have a lot of discussion on that again tomorrow. And hybrid meetings are a big thing at the county too. They're trying to get the council chamber in shape to do hybrid meetings, and it hasn't been able to get perfected, similar to what we're dealing with in the township. I know all the townships are working together to try and get something perfected. I don't think it's ever going to be perfect, but eventually here, I think they're looking at a meeting schedule it'll be up to the county councilors whether they want to attend or not, in person or similar to what we did today. So, and the ambulances, there was a discussion around that, and their numbers are going up too, and they have a lot of challenges, and it just went into a community paramedic program, which I don't know all the details of, but it's funded. It's got a separate funding to it for them to try and work with the communities to do a better service. And fire services, they said, really complement paramedics, and that's the thing of a rural municipality. They said, you know, without the fire departments, it just wouldn't work. A lot of times they're there first, so that's just the way it is. And but we can get more of this stuff from the motion that was presented. So that's all I have for the county report. And I think Deputy Mayor Dro is right. If you're really interested in it and you really have nothing to do, you can go and watch it on YouTube and pick up on some of the information. But we just give you the highlights here. So so if that's okay, there's no questions, I'll just get a motion to receive the county report. Moved by Deputy Mayor Dro, seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so we'll move into to the next things with liaison reports. And sorry, I'm just trying to catch up here. So Barry, there was some minutes from a February 24th library board meeting.
Yeah. I think they're in the, any questions on?
If there's no questions on the for Barry with regards to library board, I'll take a motion to receive those minutes. Moved by Councillor Pomeroy that we receive the minutes from the February 24th meeting. Is there a seconder for that?
Second the motion, Mr. Mayor.
Seconded by Councillor Ellis. Any comments or questions around that? If not, I'll take a motion, or all in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you. And all right then, so we'll move on to there's no written notice of motion. Is there any oral notice of motions to come out today? Seeing none, I'll move on to new business, and there's two items in new business. The first, I think we talked about earlier. Barry, go ahead.
Yeah, I would have submitted this earlier, but Bob's been very, very busy the last week, so I didn't want to take him away from his work. But I think we're going to have to look at a property standards bylaw in the township, or in town especially. It's not looking all that well of either property standards or yard bylaw. I'm not sure which, but I would like some, staff to maybe look at that and see what they can come up with.
Okay, so how do you want to do that, Bob? Did you want to do that as an oral notice of motion that that we investigate again for a property standards bylaw, or do you want it just done right here?
No, we can do it right here through you, Mayor Martin. We'll just take the motion and we'll follow up.
Okay. All right.
So Councillor Pomeroy would like staff to investigate a property standards bylaw and bring it back at a future meeting. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Webb. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. I'll open up for discussion. Anybody have any questions or comments around that? Seeing none. Oh, go ahead, Deputy Mayor Dro.
This is for all of the municipality, not just the village, right?
Right.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So if there's no other questions, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, thank you, Barry. All right. The next item in new business was with regards to the vehicle replacement schedule, and I think we addressed that already, but if you have more to add to that, Larry, go ahead.
Not really, through you, Mr. Mayor. We all know going through budget that there were two departments that wanted new vehicles, would never been purchased before for those specific departments. And so a review of what the policy is now, and then the two gentlemen or two councilors that are on that committee bring something back to council. So we know in the future what is and what isn't going to be replaced with new.
Okay, thank you. All right then. So, okay, well, thank you, Councillor Ellison. And I'm going to move on here then to, we don't have any bylaws today to pass. So the next would be the confirming bylaw. Look for a motion for the confirming bylaw for today's meeting? And
So
that's
moved, Mr. Mayor.
moved by Councillor Ellis, seconded by Councillor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried.